The sunlight filtered through the leaves of the tall maple trees, lining our backyard in the quiet, affluent suburbs just outside Seattle, casting shifting patterns across the perfectly trimmed lawn. Pink and blue balloons swayed gently from every chair and post, their ribbons catching the breeze like playful streamers. The aroma of vanilla cake, mixed with fresh-cut grass and blooming roses, filled the air, creating that picture-perfect feeling of celebration. Friends and family surrounded us, their faces lit up with excitement, ready to cheer for the big gender reveal moment everyone had been waiting for. In the middle of it all stood a large, ominous black box sealed with a shiny silver ribbon, holding the secret we were all supposedly there to discover. Would it be pink for a girl or blue for a boy? Marcus stood right beside me, his arm wrapped firmly around my waist, pulling me close as if in a loving embrace. To the guests, it looked tender, but I felt the tension coiled in his muscles, the way his fingers pressed just a little too hard, like he was pinning me in place for the performance he had scripted so carefully. He leaned in, his breath brushing my ear with deceptive warmth. "Ready for the surprise of your life, Emma?" His tone was smooth, almost affectionate, but I caught the sharp edge underneath, the ugly satisfaction he couldn't quite hide. I turned to him with a calm smile, one he completely misread as naive happiness. He thought I was the clueless wife, too wrapped up in love and pregnancy glow to see the edge of the cliff ahead. Little did he know I had already mapped out the drop and prepared my safety net long ago. We walked together toward the box as the crowd cheered us on. Hands on the ribbon, we waited for the countdown from one of our close friends.
3, 2,
1. The voices rose in unison, electric with anticipation. We pulled. The ribbon slipped free, and the four sides of the black box folded down with soft thuds. But there was no burst of colored smoke, no joyful explosion of balloons or confetti in pink or blue. Instead, a flurry of white paper sheets erupted upward, spinning and fluttering down around us like eerie snowflakes on a warm summer afternoon. A collective gasp ripped through the 50 guests. The upbeat music from the speakers cut off abruptly. The garden fell into an unnatural silence. One sheet landed lightly on my shoe. I glanced down, my heart steady, not racing with panic, but pulsing with quiet readiness. The bold black letters stood out sharply. Petition for divorce. The world seemed to pause. I scanned the shocked faces, my best friend's hand covering her mouth, Marcus's parents looking bewildered, and there, half hidden behind a cluster of rose bushes near the front, stood Vanessa, Marcus's mistress, wearing a smug little smile that betrayed their shared triumph. Marcus released me as if burned, stepping forward to grab the microphone. His face shifted from the mask of devoted husband to a cruel, victorious smirk. "Surprise, everyone," he announced, his voice booming and shattering the quiet. "This isn't a baby shower after all. We're throwing a divorce party." He turned to me, eyes cold as stone, expecting me to collapse, to sob, to humiliate myself in front of everyone. "Emma and I are done," he continued, relishing the moment. "I can't be stuck with a crying pregnant wife for the rest of my life. I deserve real happiness." Pity washed over the guests' faces as they stared at me like I was wounded prey. Marcus puffed up, basking in his drama, waiting for my breakdown. But it never came. Instead, I bent carefully, supporting my back with one hand, and picked up one of the papers from the grass. I held it for a second, then used it to fan my face lightly, as if the sun had made me a bit warm. A small, serene smile curved my lips. I met Marcus's gaze, watching his confident smirk falter into confusion. I walked to the second microphone, the one meant for announcing our baby's gender. A quick tap echoed sharply through the silent yard, startling a few people. Every eye locked on me. I took a steady breath, looked at my husband's pale, confused face, and spoke into the mic with perfect calm. Thank you for that little performance, Marcus. But my announcement carries a bit more weight. To understand why I'm not falling apart right now, surrounded by these divorce papers, you need to see the life Marcus built so carefully around me. It looked beautiful from the outside, like a shiny golden frame everyone admired. But inside, just empty space. I was the smiling picture he placed there, silent and decorative. Our story began 2 years earlier in a way that felt lifted from a romantic film. I managed a cozy independent bookstore in downtown Seattle. A job I cherished for the quiet rhythm, the scent of aged pages, and the joy of matching people with stories that moved them. Marcus walked in one rainy afternoon searching for books on sustainable architecture and urban development. He was making a name for himself as a rising real estate developer with big ambitions. He stood out immediately, tall, sharply dressed in a tailored suit, with a dazzling smile that made you feel like the center of his universe. He complimented my recommendations, my knowledge of local history and design, calling it quiet confidence. I blushed. No one had described me that way before. We talked for over an hour about books, dreams, and city skylines. When he left, he had my number. That sparked the whirlwind. He courted me with grand gestures, dinners at exclusive Seattle restaurants where staff greeted him by name, private gallery openings, weekend drives in his sleek convertibles along the coast. It felt magical. A simple bookstore manager being swept off her feet by this successful, worldly man. 6 months later, he proposed on a chartered yacht under a star-filled sky over Puget Sound. I said yes, believing I was the luckiest woman alive. After the wedding, changes crept in so gradually, I hardly noticed at first. The first shift came when he suggested I leave my job. A man in my position should provide fully for his wife, he said with that charming smile. You don't need to work, darling. Just focus on making our home beautiful and being there for us. Drunk on love. I saw it as romantic. I said goodbye to the bookstore, my colleagues, my modest independence. I didn't realize I was surrendering my autonomy. Finances came next. He set up joint accounts, but statements stayed hidden from me. I had a credit card with a generous limit for whatever your heart wants, but it felt more like an allowance than shared partnership. When I once asked to review budgets together, he patted my head gently. Don't worry your pretty head about those boring details. My sweet, simple girl. That's my job. At first, simple sounded endearing. Later, I understood it was what he required, simple enough not to question, not to challenge. Our home was a stunning mansion in a gated Bellevue community, but it never truly felt like mine. Marcus hired a top designer to fill it with sleek grays, whites, and metallic accents, cold, magazine perfect, soulless. My colorful art prints and beloved books were boxed away in a small upstairs room he jokingly called my hobby space. When hosting guests, he played the perfect host, arm around me, calling me his queen, kissing my hand. Friends envied us. Marcus adores you, they'd say. I smiled and nodded, desperately wanting to believe it. But alone at night in the vast silence, emptiness settled like fog. I felt like a ghost haunting someone else's flawless life. Finding out about the pregnancy filled me with desperate hope. A baby would bring warmth, laughter, turn the house into a real home. When I told Marcus, he hugged me tight and smiled, but his eyes held something colder, calculation. He saw not a child, but a complication anchoring him to a life he was already outgrowing. My simple girl was about to complicate his perfect picture. The fairy tale cracks started small but widened steadily during my pregnancy. Our large home had long hallways and heavy doors that began staying closed more often. I'd approach Marcus's home office and hear his low voice murmuring on calls, only for it to cut off the instant my hand touched the knob. He'd look up from his phone with a blank stare. Just business.
Emma.
You know how demanding it gets. But the air felt thick with secrets, and the abrupt hang-ups carried guilt rather than professionalism. Late nights followed. Work meetings stretched later and later. He'd slip into bed hours after I'd fallen asleep, carrying the faint trace of a floral perfume that wasn't mine, expensive, lingering like evidence of another woman's presence. The first time, my heart twisted painfully, but I dismissed it as paranoia. The second and third times planted cold dread. By the fourth or fifth, it became undeniable truth. Marcus grew distant and irritable. The tender words and touches vanished, replaced by impatient dismissal. This sharpened noticeably once the pregnancy became public knowledge. As if the reality of fatherhood was a trap, he needed to flee. I tried bridging the widening gap, suggesting baby names, showing sonogram images, but he'd wave it off. Whatever you decide is fine.
Emma.
He felt like a stranger wearing my husband's face. The loneliness pressed physically. Living in this grand house while pregnant and more isolated than ever. One evening sorting his laundry, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket from a romantic downtown Seattle restaurant I'd tried booking for our anniversary. Impossible, Marcus had claimed. It listed 2 entrees and champagne. My hands shook holding the paper. This was concrete proof. I waited up that night, heart hammering. When he arrived, I presented it quietly. You said this place was booked solid. For a split second, panic flashed in his eyes before a condescending laugh took over. He crumpled the receipt. Oh, Emma, I was with an important client. Are you really accusing me of something while pregnant? This is exactly the hormonal craziness I worry about. You need to calm down for the baby's sake. He made me feel foolish, small, insane. I stepped back and apologized for discovering his betrayal. After that, I stopped confronting. I withdrew inward. The only comfort came from visits with Marcus's grandmother, Evelyn. The sharp, insightful matriarch of the family lived in a warm, book-filled estate nearby. Unlike others, she listened deeply during our weekly teas. I confided my fears, the crushing loneliness, how Marcus seemed transformed. She nodded, her hand on mine. Men handed too much can become fools, dear, especially when they forget gratitude. She never criticized Marcus outright, but her eyes conveyed understanding. She saw my pain clearly. Those afternoons became my strength, a lighthouse in rising storm. Unbeknownst to me then, Evelyn was already charting a protective path. About a month before the party, my phone rang on a Tuesday. Evelyn's voice, usually vibrant, sounded frail. Emma, come see me alone. Don't mention it to Marcus. Fear knotted in my stomach. This wasn't casual tea. I drove over with trembling hands. In her study, smelling of old books and polish. She sat small in her armchair, but eyes razor-sharp. Her lawyer, Mr. Whitaker, stood quietly by the fireplace. Sit,
Dear.
no time for pleasantries. She cut straight in. I'm no fool. I know about Marcus's greed. His affair with that woman Vanessa. I hired a private investigator weeks ago to confirm. He's planning to leave you dramatically, waiting for my passing to inherit everything and run off with her, leaving you and the baby with nothing. Tears welled, but she squeezed my arm. Don't cry. We won't allow it. She explained the audacious plan. Mr. Whitaker presented a thick document, her updated will and trust. Everything, the family real estate empire. multiple properties. This estate, the fortune built over decades, went into a special trust controlled solely by the mother of her first great-grandchild, me. Power transferred upon the baby's birth. Until the child turned 21, I would head the family, approving Marcus's small allowance. I was speechless. Why me? Evelyn smiled faintly. I've watched you 2 years. Marcus did one wise thing bringing you in. You're kind, intelligent, stronger than you realize. You'll protect the legacy from the one who would ruin it, my own grandson. She leaned forward intensely. This is my final gift.
Be brave.
Wait for his move. Then show him what a simple girl can truly accomplish. I left with a certified copy heavy in my purse, like armor. No longer a victim. I was now guardian waiting for the right moment. 2 weeks later, Evelyn passed peacefully. Genuine grief hit me hard. I'd lost my true ally. Marcus performed grief masterfully at the funeral, voice cracking perfectly, but I caught greedy anticipation in his eyes when unguarded. Fingers tapping impatiently. With Evelyn gone, Marcus dropped pretenses. He and Vanessa grew bolder. Late nights no longer excused. Perfume clung openly. I saw their photo online at a cafe. Her hand intimate on his. He viewed me as temporary inconvenience, soon resolved. Then he proposed the gender reveal party, huge, with everyone invited, friends, family, business contacts. It has to be unforgettable. A chill ran through me. He wanted maximum audience for my humiliation. The larger the stage, the harder my fall. The old me might have resisted. But empowered by Evelyn's secret, I smiled sweetly. Wonderful idea. Darling. He looked pleased, thinking victory easy. I let him plan the caterers, decorations. Enormous black box, observing detachedly like studying an insect. Every detail, he added, built his own trap. He thought he spun a web for me. Really? He was the fly, and I the patient spider. I played my role flawlessly, the fragile, unsuspecting wife. When Marcus looked at me with fake pity or mocked my pregnancy brain, I pretended fluster while inside smiling. The greatest acting of my life. The party day arrived. In my bedroom mirror, I saw not a broken woman, but a composed queen preparing for battle. I chose an elegant white dress accentuating my belly. I wanted all to see what he discarded. Hand on my stomach, I whispered to my child, Mommy has this under control. I descended the stairs ready to let Marcus walk into the web. Back in the garden's stunned silence. Divorce papers littered the grass like his cruelty's confetti. His words still poisoned the air. Marcus stood puffed but confused, expecting tears that never came. I stretched the silence, letting uncertainty creep into his eyes, new for him. Vanessa's smugness melted. The script failed. The victim refused her part. I lifted the microphone. Thank you, Marcus, for the paperwork. Organization is key. Nervous chuckles rippled. But you're confused on timing. You can't divorce me and leave me penniless because you have nothing left to give. Marcus barked a hollow laugh. Lost your mind from grief and hormones? I'm inheriting everything soon. Are you? I replied sweetly, reaching into my purse for the certified will copy. I unfolded it slowly, holding it high. This is your grandmother Evelyn's final will. Certified by Mr. Whitaker over there, by the hydrangeas. The lawyer nodded professionally. Murmurs swelled. Fear flickered on Marcus's face for the first time. Evelyn was brilliant, I continued, voice gaining strength. She knew your greed. She protected the family's future. Her estate, company, properties, fortune sits in a trust controlled only by the mother of her first great-grandchild. From the baby's birth onward. I placed a hand on my belly maternally, yet powerfully. The crowd gasped collectively as dots connected. So you see, Marcus, you own nothing anymore. I do. His face drained from tan to ghostly white. The triumphant man vanished, replaced by terrified realization. Chaos erupted. Whispers, gasps breaking the spell. I wasn't finished. They craved spectacle. I deliver. Marcus forgot to mention the divorce reason, his year-long affair with her. I pointed steadily at Vanessa. While I carried his child at home, he wined and dined her with money he assumed would soon be his. All eyes turned. Vanessa flinched, smugness replaced by panicked shame, wishing to disappear. Marcus trembled in rage and panic. Cornered. About these papers, I said businesslike, picking one up disdainfully. I accept. My lawyer will handle generous terms. Looking him dead in the eye. This is no longer your house. Pack and leave within 24 hours. His parents rushed forward in confusion. Emma, what is this? His father stammered. Evelyn knew her grandson's flaws better than anyone. She safeguarded the legacy. I'm honoring her wishes. Marcus squeaked desperately. You can't. I can. And I have. I turned my back, dismissing him utterly. True friends gathered supportively. The party ended, but my real life began. Hand on my belly under the ironic balloons. I felt profound peace. No longer Marcus's decorative wife in a golden cage. I was now family head, protector, resilient woman Evelyn always recognized.